So this is a 12-string guitar, and it's tuned in double notes. So each string is the same, except I've tuned two strings differently. And so the total tuning is D, D, A, A, D, D, F, G, A, A, D, and C.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, this is Kaki King, and you're watching Radio National on YouTube, and I'm going to play a song for you called Fences.
Should we go back to the other guitar then?
Yeah.
I'm joined by American guitarist Kaki King. Hello.
Hi.
A new album called Glow, which puts you at, what, 7 records?
6.
6.
Yeah.
Good.
People stop counting after 4,
4 or
I think.
5,
Yeah.
don't they? I think the last time I spoke to you was quite a few years ago, and I remember talking to you about some of those early days. for you, which did involve a lot of busking, didn't they?
Yeah. The things that I learned from busking were, one, it built my stamina. So before that, I'd never stood up for 3 hours at a time and played guitar. And that's a very challenging physical thing to do. So it's almost like building a muscle. And so that was important, just to be able to go from song to song, different tunings on the guitar, and just keep it up for that long.
Yeah.
And it made playing shows much easier because, I had just grown accustomed to that much work. I had just gotten out of college, and I didn't have any work because 9/11 had just happened in New York. So that was kind of why I was there. I needed something to connect to the city, and I needed something to do, and I was very filled with a lot of anxiety, as many people were. The subway wasn't the place where I learned to play. It's the place I learned to perform. And one of the things that, we just saw a band last night actually at Oxford Arts Factory, and they were great. They were the opening act, and, hundreds of people were talking over them. And I remember thinking, I have got to be able to play above all chaos and all other sound. And I've got to be able to really focus and not have any of that distract me. And I learned that in the subway for sure. I don't think it informed my music as much as it did my performance skills.
Well, for the recording of your latest album, Glow, you didn't have the hubbub of hundreds of people walking
No,
past. You had quite the opposite. I saw a photograph of you. You're sitting cross-legged at the moment in the studio here, and we've got a couple of microphones in front of you. But I saw a photograph of you recording some of this record, and it was you on several cushions on a couch and surrounded by not just one microphone, but what looked like 3, 4, maybe even 5. The most interesting of which, and this is an interesting microphone, was a model of a head with hair and ears facing you.
Yeah, that was Janet. The producer I worked with was great. His name's D. James Goodwin, and he's just a sounds guy. He just wants every possible option of sound. And so Janet was she was a mannequin head that had been outfitted with microphones in her ears.
And these are used. And they're
on the record. And so Janet's ears are, essentially what the guitar sounds like to a person sitting about 5 feet in front of it, or 1.3 meters or whatever.
Thank you very much.
Yes, you're welcome. And so that I forgot about Janet, but Janet came everywhere with me. I mean, she had to be moved around the studio. I think I eventually stopped calling her Janet and referring to it as a she. It was just a set of microphones, but it is, yeah.
But one point that you made during that process was that you were very interested in that sense of hearing the guitar in the room with you, as opposed to hearing it at the sound desk in the other room. That idea of being very present. And is that a very strong reflection of how you feel about your playing? This idea of it really about being the here and the now, the moment.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think that what I do live is very challenging, I'll admit, and I think the subtler things that I do are maybe some of the more challenging things, and so. I do think just the sound of a person in a room playing guitar is very powerful, especially when, someone like me that's spent a lot of time and a lot of years really, figuring out what I like to do. And I really am a student at this thing. I really do learn more every day. And, one of the things that's interesting about that photo you mentioned is that there are microphones beside my head.
Yeah.
And I've always, I've kind of always done that, because when I play guitar, my ears are sitting above the guitar, and I'm playing to the sound that I hear, not the sound that's, a foot in front of the guitar, like where these microphones are. So, or 0.2 meters, 20 centimeters. So I'm getting good at this after all these trips here. So I'd always made a point of just, why don't we just put a mic near my head, because I'm playing to that sound.
So that's your reference, isn't it?
That's my reference, yeah. That's the sound that I'm making adjustments. I'm doing all the things according to that sound that's coming into my ears. So every record I've ever done, I've always put microphones by my ears. And the producers have always gone, oh, you silly. It's like a superstitious thing, but they've always used them.
Have they?
Because they realize that what I am hearing is different from what is in front of the guitar.
Speaking of being a student and an exploration, for this latest stage in your development, tuning, as it always has been, but the tuning that you have been searching or exploring on this, D minor, is that right?
Well, yeah, D minor. It's kind of an obvious tuning for me. I had never really written anything in it before, and I ended up writing 3 songs for Glow with that tuning. So it's D A D F A D. It's just open D minor.
And does that mean it's a sorrowful tone?
Well, you'd think that it is, but one of the tunes I wrote is actually in I believe it's actually in A. No, sorry, it's in G minor. So the whole tune is in G minor, which is great. And then another song is completely pretty cheery, kind of a like Brazilian samba kind of deal.
Very versatile.
It is a versatile tuning. I think that's, I seek those out because you don't want to have to tune the guitar every song.
All right. Well, it's great to have you in the room. And whilst Janet's not here, the rest of us can take her place today. Kaki King is my guest here on the Inside Sleeve, and she does have a guitar, as you've heard. Let's take a little listen to something. What would you like to play?
This is a song called Streetlight in the Egg.
All right, playing for you live in the studio today, the wonderful sounds of guitarist Kaki King, and that one called The Streetlight and the Egg, all right, from her latest album, Glow. Kaki, thanks so much.
Thank you. Why do mics get used in this configuration when they're in stereo? Like, why this particular...
Because it means like
so that one's...
yeah, but it's got a pattern that like a
What is-
cardioid,
right.
so it's got a lobe
So
that
that
goes
one's
out
like-
that way,
Yeah.
and then this one's going to
So
go
you're
that
creating
way.
a balloon like that.
Yeah, but it's, so
I
it's a
see.
stereo picture, and because it's at 90 degrees to each other,
Mm-hmm.
that produces this, I guess, most accurate stereo picture.
The Inside Sleeve with Robbie Buck on RN.